What's up, guys? New video, 2 in the week. Yes, sir. Unfortunately, I did not record audio for the entire first recording of this video, which really sucks because this video is long. So I just recorded like 20 minutes of just crappy audio. So if I'm not as enthused as I should be, please forgive me. It is 2:45 in the morning. I forgot to record on time, so this is my punishment. This is going to be a playoff predictions video. I did go pretty in-depth on the first take of this. I will try to go not as in-depth, but give as much analysis as I can into my picks. I'll try to do awards sometime next week, probably. But I'm not really sure when that's going to be able to get out. But yeah, this is just playoff predictions. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, little disclaimer in here. I recorded this the night before all the playoff games happened. I think I mentioned that in there. But I'm editing this on Saturday night, so some of the playoff games have already happened. I'm going to put all the playoff scores that have already happened after this, just so you know that my predictions happened before the games that happened. So yeah. First up, in the Eastern Conference, I'm going to go through the East 1 through 8 first round, and then I'm going to go through the West 1 through 8 first round, then I'm going to go through East second round, West second round, and all that. So first up in the East, I got Philly and Washington. This one's pretty simple. I'm going to go Philly. I think their perimeter defense with Thibault, Green, and Simmons is going to be too much for Beal and Westbrook. They got way more bench depth than the Wizards. The Wizards have no one to stop Joel Embiid. I think this is going to be a pretty quick series in 5 or 6. Washington's a nice story. It's good to see probably what's going to be the last year of a full prime Russell Westbrook. Great to see him be appreciated at the end of the regular season, like he should have. Obviously, he got the all-time triple-double record, which is great. But I just don't see him being able to win. So yeah. Next up, Brooklyn and Boston. I'm gonna go Brooklyn. Shocker. So Brooklyn's they just have too much firepower. Boston doesn't have any perimeter defense of any kind. So they got good team defense, but in terms of individual defense, 1-on-1, which is mostly what Brooklyn's gonna be doing, I can't see Boston winning. Tatum is great. Obviously, had 50 in the playing game. He had 60 earlier in the season, which I think got overlooked because 60 is insane. But Harden, KD, and Kyrie is just too much. I think you got to take this Celtics season with a grain of salt. I mean, they had so many injuries. Obviously, with the Jaylen Brown injury, if he was healthy, this would have been a much more entertaining series. But unfortunately, he's not. But obviously, his injury, Evan Fournier got COVID. Tatum himself got COVID. Kemba Walker was hurt. They had trades in the middle of the season. Marcus Smart was hurt in the beginning of the year. That really contributed to their poor start. And as soon as he came back, they got hot. So, no, it is... this Celtics season, you got to have to run it back next year with a fully healthy roster and a fully acclimated roster. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of this playoffs, Brooklyn is just too much. Next, Miami and Bucks is probably going to be the most entertaining series of the first round. And I got Milwaukee. I see a lot of people are taking Miami just based on the fact that last year Miami won in the second round. But I think people are failing to take into account that Milwaukee is much better built to win in the playoffs this season than they were last season. They have way more shooting around Giannis. He's going to be able to kick out to shooters instead of guys who are just going to lay bricks all the time. And I think Miami got worse playoff-wise. Obviously, they lose Jay Crowder, who is huge for them. I don't think Goran Dragic is as good this season. He's been in and out with injury as well. I don't see Tyler Hero having as big of an impact as he did in the series last year. Obviously, you're going to have Jimmy Butler be great. You're going to have Bam Adebayo be great. But the bench of Miami is a little lacking, and in terms of bench for Milwaukee, they're way better than they were last year. So, and they're gonna have a huge chip on their shoulder. Drew Holiday, I mentioned him. He's just so much better than Eric Bledsoe. But Eric Bledsoe's a good defensive player, but offensively he doesn't provide much. Drew Holiday at least provides some sort of creation ability. And obviously still have Middleton as well. So yeah, if Milwaukee's able to stay healthy in this series, I'm taking them. Next one, Atlanta and New York. This is gonna be a really fun series, and I'm really looking forward to watching some of these games. But I'm gonna take the Hawks. I think a lot of people are gonna take New York just based on the fact that they're the Knicks. But Hawks match up really well. They have a lot of perimeter players. They have a lot of perimeter scoring. They have a great rim protector in Clint Capella. The Knicks are really good defensively, which is what makes this an interesting pick for me. Obviously, Thibodeau's done a great job. He should deservingly is a finalist for Coach of the Year, or he should be. I don't know if they've announced those yet, but he should be a finalist for Coach of the Year if he's not, and he should be pretty close to winning it too. But I think that Atlanta's bench is going to be too much for the Knicks. I think they have way too much bench scoring, yeah, I wouldn't put it past Tibbs to play the starters 48 minutes if I'm being quite honest, but I just think the Hawks have more offensively, and good offense is always going to be good defense. That's going to be a theme in these picks as well. But yeah, got the Hawks. Next in the West, first round, Utah and Memphis, the 1-8 matchup. Memphis just won about 4 or 5 hours ago against the Warriors. I love Memphis. I'm going to talk about them for a little bit right now. I absolutely love what Memphis has done this year and last year, building a roster around Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson, who just came back from injury. They remind me so much of the Denver Nuggets, which is why I love this team so much. Just because they just remind me of how the Nuggets were a couple of seasons ago, and the fact that they were able to redeem themselves, making the playoffs after missing in the play-in last year in the bubble. That's great, and I think that they should be very, very proud of making it to the playoffs this season, and their fans deserve it as well. But in terms of this playoff series, Utah is just too good. Utah's a really, really good team. And they were the best record in the NBA in the regular season for a reason. They're great shooting. I think Gobert is going to take Valanciunas out of the game, and that's going to really be why they lose. They don't have enough around him outside of Morant. So Memphis should be proud of getting to this place, but I think that Utah probably wins in 5. Next, Suns and Lakers. This series is going to make me so mad because I think the Lakers are going to win. I'm picking the Lakers right now. It just pains me so much. It pains me to pick the Lakers. I hate picking the Lakers. But the Suns, they got screwed so hard in this. They needed the Warriors to win that play-in game against the Lakers so bad because the Lakers match up so great with the Suns. In terms of in the post, I think this is a series where Andre Drummond is going to be good and everyone's going to be like, oh my God, this is exactly what they got it for, even though Andre Drummond sucks butt juice. This is going to be a series where he's going to be great because I don't think size-wise Phoenix matches up terribly. They have no answer for Anthony Davis. They could throw as many bodies as they want at LeBron, but I don't think it's going to matter. But it just sucks. It's Phoenix. I mean, you go get Chris Paul, and he's so great. He's in the MVP conversation, and rightfully so. Devin Booker's finally going to have a chance to play in the playoffs. You get great offseason acquisitions with Crowder and Torrey Craig, who they got in a trade. He's been really good for him. Mikal Bridges took a big leap this year. Cam Johnson's been good for him. Cameron Payne, such a great story for him being like one of the worst rotation players in the entire league a couple seasons ago with the Thunder and the Bulls to now being one of the best backup point guards in the league. I think is a story that deserves way more attention. But it just sucks that they have to play the Lakers because I can't justify picking against LeBron. He's proven wrong every single time and every year in his career. He's proven wrong that you cannot pick against him. So I have to pick the Lakers. Next one, Denver and Portland. This one is the hardest series to pick about objectively. One, because I'm a Nuggets fan. Got my Jokic jersey on. Kind of getting spirit. But there's so many question marks on both sides in this series. I mean, who's going to guard Damian Lillard? Who's going to guard CJ McCollum? Who's going to guard Norman Powell on the perimeter for the Nuggets? Who's going to guard Jokic for the Blazers? What are the benches going to look like for both teams? So there's a lot of question marks on both sides. This is going to be a really, really entertaining series. And Denver's going to be missing a lot of scoring and a lot of defense. They're going to be missing PJ Dozier, who they would probably have put him on McCollum, which really sucks because CJ is the reason why we lost that series 2 years ago. It wasn't Damian Lillard, it was CJ McCollum. They're obviously missing Murray, and they're going to be missing Will Barton for a decent portion of the series as well. And that's just a lot of scoring, a lot of defense, a lot of rebounding, a lot of playmaking that's just gone for the Nuggets. And that's just... I'm picking Denver, one, because I'm biased. and I can't pick against my team in the first round. And two, because they have the MVP. And I think that Jokic is going to be able to elevate his teammates' level of play. They do have Michael Porter Jr. I haven't mentioned him yet, and I think he's going to have a great series because I don't think Robert Covington is really going to be able to guard him on the perimeter. And even if they switch someone else onto him, he's just too big, too fast, too strong, too good. I think he's going to be really, really good in this series for him. And obviously Jokic is going to be great. This is going to go 7 games. I have a very strong feeling that this series is going to go 7 games. But I'm picking Denver. And I think this little off-season note here, little tidbit. I think this is going to send the Blazers into a mini rebuild. I think they're going to look to trade McCollum to get a true number 2. Well, McCollum is a true number 2, but I think they're going to look to trade McCollum to get another number 1 alongside Damian Lillard. And I think they're going to fire Terry Stotts if they lose this, if I'm being quite honest with you. But yeah, I'm going to go Denver. I can't pick against my team, and I can't pick against the MVP. Last Western Conference matchup, LA and Dallas. Clippers tanked so hard at the end of the year to avoid the Lakers, and it worked perfectly. They got a team in the first round that they're familiar with. They played last season in the playoffs. They beat them in 6. But just to avoid playing the Lakers, they tanked so well, and I got to applaud it. Honestly, I was mad about it on Twitter, but then I realized that the Nuggets did the same thing this year to avoid playing the Lakers, and 2, the Nuggets did it 2 years ago to play the Blazers. They tanked their last game, or they tanked a game against the Blazers to make sure that they won. But yeah, it's just a really real funny aspect of the NBA season that happened. But I'm gonna pick the Clippers in this one. They match up really well with. I don't think Dallas can. Dallas can win this series if Porzingis plays to the level we know he can, and they'll have a chance. But I think that the Clippers know how to beat Luka, and it's isolate him, It's to double him and make sure that someone else makes a play. And I don't think Dallas has enough of those players. If I'm being quite honest with you, they got Josh Richardson for this exact reason. But I don't think Josh Richardson is good enough to do it in a playoff series against a really good defensive team like the Clippers. So yeah, the benches match up really well for both teams. Actually, I think both benches are pretty good. But I'm gonna give the edge to the Clippers. I think that they know what they're doing against this team, and I think that they're gonna win. Moving on to the second round for the Eastern Conference, Philly and Atlanta. I think this is going to be a very underrated series if this isn't indeed the matchup. Atlanta matches up pretty well. Obviously, Philly still does have the perimeter defense with Thibault, Green, and Simmons. But in terms of Joel Embiid, they have probably one of the best defenders that you can possibly put on him in Clint Capella. Clint Capella is a great defender. He guards bigs extremely well in the pick and roll. He himself is a great pick and roll player on offense. But I'm picking Philly in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks won. I'm gonna say this right now, so in case the Hawks win, I could pull this footage out. But I'm gonna pick Philly. I think their bench is much better than Atlanta's, even though Atlanta has a good bench. I love the Hawks' future. I think they'd be really good in the East for a lot of years to come. But I think that Philly has too much. I think that Tobias Harris is going to be key in this series offensively. I think that he matches up offensively really well against John Collins. And it's the other way around too, but I think that Tobias Harris is a better player, so he's going to be able to take advantage more. Other semifinal matchup, Brooklyn versus Milwaukee. I'm going to take the Nets. Once again, they just have too much firepower. Bucks are a really good perimeter defending team, but you cannot guard one of Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant with like Dante DiVincenzo. Like you just can't. It's not going to work out very well. You're going to have to double and the Brooklyn Nets have great ball movement. They have great rotations. It's going to end up in a lot of open looks for him. Like, you can have Giannis on KD, you can have Drew Holiday on Kyrie. Who's guarding James Harden? You could put Drew Holiday on Harden. Who's guarding Kyrie? So, yeah, I just think there's too much. I think Giannis is going to go off in the series. They don't have anyone to match his size and his strength in the post or even athleticism, really. But I'm picking Brooklyn. They just have too much offensively. I can't pick against them. Second round for the Western Conference. First one, Utah versus the Clippers. I'm going to take the Clippers in this one. Clippers have too much on the perimeter for Utah to handle. Utah, I said before, they're a historically great shooting team. They're the only team in NBA history to make 10 threes in every single game in a regular season, which is honestly like something that got very, very little coverage. I saw it on StatMuse on Twitter. They're a great Twitter account. They post stuff like that all the time. But I only saw it on there, and I think that's something that should have been talked about more, because making 10 threes in every single game is ridiculous. The shooting is going to keep them in this series, but Utah perimeter defensive wise, they don't have enough to guard Kawhi and Paul George, and that's really what's going to come down to it. Benches once again match up really, really well. Utah's probably has the edge because they have two great 6 men of the year candidates in Clarkson and Ingles. And that's actually going to be a really, really fun battle to watch. How those benches go at each other, because Rondo and probably DeMarcus Cousins are going to be manning that bench unit with like Terrence Mann and guys like those, and Nick Batum. Like, Clippers have a pretty good bench and very underrated bench. And the Jazz also have a great bench. You look at guys like Derek Favors, Joe Ingles, Jordan Clarkson. Like, they have a lot. And it's going to be a really fun series to watch. Offensively, it's going to be fireworks everywhere. But I don't think that the Jazz have enough offensively to keep up with the Clippers. Next one, Denver and LA. Pain. I got to pick the Lakers. If Jamal Murray was healthy, I would have picked Denver, honestly. Like, objective as possible, I would have picked Jamal Murray or the Nuggets. But unfortunately, we never got to see this Nuggets team at full strength in terms of with Aaron Gordon, like that starting lineup with Aaron Gordon, with Will Barton. We never got to see it against the Lakers. We saw it against the Clippers, and it worked really well. So I'm just so much pain with that injury. Oh, my God. It's going to go down as one of the most impactful injuries of the 21st century. Because this season, Denver legitimately had a chance to win the title this year, if that injury doesn't happen. But getting ahead of myself, getting away from the topic at hand. Denver should have Barton and Dozier back at this point to win their first round matchup. But without Murray, I can't see Denver winning. This Lakers matchup as good as any team in the NBA against the Nuggets in terms of who's going to guard Jokic. Obviously, they have Anthony Davis, who was Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year. They have, even LeBron can guard him pretty well. They have, Drummond and Harrell are there. I don't think they're going to get very many minutes in this series because they both suck against Jokic and they're both not good defenders. But Marc Gasol is going to get a lot of run in this series. And I think he's a really smart defender. He's going to play well. So I think he's going to be key in this. But Denver's going to put up a great fight. If there's anything that I know about the Nuggets, it's that they're not going to go down without literally taking you limb from limb and just beating you down as much as they possibly can before losing. But I can't see a situation where the Nuggets win without Jamal Murray. There's always a chance. And if Denver plays Portland or Phoenix in this situation, I would pick Denver to win. I think that they match up very well against Phoenix as well. But in terms of the Lakers, I have to pick the Lakers. Eastern Conference Finals. It's going to be Philly versus Brooklyn. I got to take Brooklyn. Like Giannis, Embiid is going to have a monster series in this. They have no one to match his skill, size, strength, athleticism, whatever you want to name. They cannot guard Embiid in terms of that. And not many people can. But the Nets, this has been a problem that we have known that they were going to have from the beginning of the year. If they play a team like the Bucks or the Bucks or the Sixers, they're screwed. But that's exactly what the trade for James Harden was. They give up their rim protector in Jared Allen, but they get a guy in James Harden who can just take over games. and I think that's what's going to happen in this series. Philly does absolutely... Philly matches up pretty well with Brooklyn, perimeter-wise, but once again, good offense is always going to be good defense. And I just have to give it to Brooklyn. Until they prove me wrong, until they show that those three together are not a good matchup, or not a good like pairing together, I can't pick against them. So I got to go with Brooklyn. West Finals, Battle of LA, Clippers, Lakers, and I'm going to take the Clippers. Taking the Clippers. Clippers matchup as good against the Lakers as any team in the NBA. This is going to be the best series in the Western Conference, I think, by far. I think it'll go 6 or 7 games. Every game is going to be entertaining. Every game is going to be close. Atmosphere on the court is going to be incredible. Having every single game in the same stadium is going to be great. Being able to put Kawhi and LeBron, you have a Defensive Player of the Year guy who can be on their best wing player. And that's really going to be the key. Because it's going to allow Paul George to really focus on his offense and not worry about having to guard a wing defender on the other end, which is what I think really Paul George struggled with in the playoffs last year, because no one was really able to guard Luka Doncic in that first round series. And I think he had to focus too much on the defensive end, so offensively he really sucked. And it was the same thing in the Denver series. He had to focus too much on guarding Jamal Murray, and he didn't have enough energy, and he didn't have enough mental capacity to just focus on offense. But in this series, he's going to be able to focus on offense, and I think he's going to be the key to it. Once again, it's going to come down to the bench, and I think the Clippers bench absolutely washes the Lakers bench. If it's just Anthony Davis on the court and LeBron's on the bench, those minutes, the Clippers are going to run away with them. I think they're just too good. Their bench is too good to not do that. And I think that's what's going to really, really win them the game and the series. So I'm taking Clippers and Nets in the finals. And in that matchup, this is actually a very, very, very good matchup for the Clippers. But I'm still taking the Nets. Clippers match up great against the Nets. They're the only team I can think of in the NBA that can put 3 legit perimeter defenders that match up great against every single player. Paul George and James Harden Paul George matches up really good against James Harden. Patrick Beverley is a great guy to have on Kyrie Irving. And obviously you have Kawhi Leonard, you can put him on Kevin Durant. And I think if you're Los Angeles, you got to live with those. You got your 3 best defenders on their 3 best players. You got to live with it. And that's going to be such a fun thing to watch if this is indeed a finals matchup. But I think that having 3 of the top 15 players in the world is just too much for the Clippers to handle. Benches match up pretty equally. I would honestly probably give the Clippers a little edge, but starting lineup wise, I think that the Nets would win in that battle. I think that's what's going to win them it. They just have more on offense, more shooting, more finishing, more rebounding, more handling, more playmaking. It's just it's so hard to pick against Brooklyn in any 7-game series, because you just know that they can just explode, and it's gonna happen. So I don't know what else to say. I got Brooklyn. So yes, Brooklyn Nets are the 2021 NBA champions. A lot could go different here in terms of who plays who to get to the finals, but ultimately I think it'll be Clippers-Nets. Clippers could play the Suns for all we know in the conference finals. They could play the Jazz in the conference final. Well, they play Jazz in the second round, but Jazz could beat the Clippers. They could play the Lakers in the conference finals. They could play Nuggets in the conference finals. Like a lot could happen, honestly. But I think ultimately the most likely outcome is going to be Clippers versus Brooklyn. If that does happen, that's going to be a phenomenal series. So I'm really looking forward to these playoffs. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching if you made it this far. 2 videos in a week. Try to get one next week. Try to do something based on awards in the NBA. Try to talk about hockey a little bit as well, because the Avalanche are doing so good. They won today. They're up 3-0 in their series. So, yeah. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Peace.